Do you guys remember like 6 or 7 months ago when Gerry Hamilton used to come on the show to talk Texas recruiting? And at the time, the Horns were sitting at like number 21 or 22 in the country. And we used to play this little game called Texas's Path to a Top 5 Class. And at the time, it seemed impossible, or at least it sounded like a stretch. But here we are, one day after the early signing day, and look at Texas. Look at Texas. Look at that top 5 class. Gerry led us down the path, and now the Horns are sitting at number 5 overall, but they might not be done. So I'm going to bring on the great Gerry Hamilton in this video. We're going to see if Texas could make this a top 3 class. But first, Horns fans, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We talk recruiting 365 days out of the year. We need you to be a part of it. Hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring on national recruiting analyst here at On3, Gerry Hamilton. And it was a big day. But before we get into the path to the top 3 class, let's talk about a couple of these major developments yesterday. The big flip of Tai Anthony Smith, the linebacker who was committed to Texas A&M, and then the flip of Hampton from Texas to Alabama. So first on Smith, they'd been trying to knock this one down. How did they finally get it done?
Yeah, Josh, we'd mentioned Tai Anthony Smith a few times since late September when he originally had an official visit scheduled for the Kansas weekend to Texas. He canceled that day up. He remained solid, Tai Anthony Smith, the 4-star linebacker from Jasper, remained solid with A&M. Even though he kept in contact with Texas, they were never able to get him on campus until the coaching change. And once that happened, then the doors really opened, and Texas ended up winning this one out, Josh. We talked about it without even having a linebackers coach. Jeff Choate's gone. He's the head coach at Nevada. Yeah. Texas hasn't hired his replacement yet, but Tai Anthony Smith was on campus for an official visit last weekend, the last weekend you could before signing day, with grandmother, with his aunt, with his sister, with several family members. And we talked about it on this show, same with Xavier Filsaime. Once you set foot on the campus late in the cycle like that, that's bad news for whoever has a kid committed, and it certainly was for Texas A&M. It was just a matter of time, and A&M knew it. Once he followed through and made that visit, they knew this was headed Texas direction, despite Jasper being a very A&M-friendly community in town where a lot of former players that from Jasper played at A&M, including Red Bryant. So there's some pressure on Tai Anthony to stick with A&M, but he went ahead and went with Texas, where I think he sees the future a little bit more right now than wondering what's going to happen at A&M.
Yeah, a pretty incredible story considering they didn't even have a coach at his position and they still get it done. Now, Hampton, hey, you got to take the highs and the lows, and that's what signing day is all about. So we're not just going to hit on the highs. We got to talk about some of the lows. 4-star cornerback Hampton, really good player, not going to break Texas's class, but he flips to Alabama. What went down last minute there?
Yeah, that was interesting because he told me I'm 100% committed, which, Josh, this is the business. They're going to tell you they're 100% committed, and you got to write what it is at the time. He had an in-home with Blake Gideon, the area recruiter and Texas safeties coach last week in Longview. Kane drove down from Dangerfield to Longview for that in-home visit. That was actually at a Chipotle in Longview, if anybody was sitting there wondering what was going on. But look, I think Nick Saban was by the school. Tommy Reese was by the school, the offensive coordinator for Bama. They're recruiting him at wide receiver. And I think at the end of the day, Texas was recruiting him as an athlete, looking at defensive back first. Then, since Blake Gideon made that in-home last week, Andrew Makuba jumps in from Clemson in the portal to Texas, and Xavier Filsaime flips. And so then you're looking at it situation saying, that's after Kobe Black and Santana Wilson and Jordan Johnson-Rebel in the class for Texas. You're Hampton saying, okay, where do I really fit here? But to Alabama's credit, they wanted to flip the kid from East Texas from Texas. There's no doubt this was kind of one of those little battleground recruits for Alabama and Texas that you're going to see in future years. And he talked with Texas on Wednesday morning. He talked with Alabama. And I think the phone calls went better with Alabama, and he signed with Alabama and made that flip.
Yeah. Hey, it happens to everybody. Attrition's part of the game when it comes to recruiting. Now let's move on and talk about how the Horns could possibly finish with a top 3 class. And here's how they could do it. Take a look at this graphic. We'll start with Dominic McKinley, committed to Texas A&M. Big news out of the last week was that he deferred his signing till February, which means this recruitment is really just about to begin. What do you think Texas needs to do over the course of the next month to flip Dom McKinley?
Yeah, I reported yesterday. Kind of gets lost on sign day with all the kids signing, but he had talked to Texas twice, talked to LSU, talked to Oklahoma. He's talked to all these schools multiple times. He has the mid-January LSU official visit scheduled, as Sam Spiegelman
Right.
reported for On Three a couple days ago. Steve Sarkisian still has his in-home. Bo Davis can still go by that school. It has the weekly in-homes. A lot of it, Brian Kelly burned his in-home. Mike Elko saved his in-home. But
Yeah.
that's the key right there. Is it's the in-home visit with Steve Sarkisian and Bo Davis, and then does he get back on campus unofficially in January? I don't think he has to do that for Texas to win out, but I think if he ever makes a visit, because he's scheduled to be at Tennessee and LSU, if he makes an unofficial to Texas, I would say it's game on for the Longhorns at that point.
All right, now let's talk about Dalton Evans and his recruitment. He's been committed to Texas A&M for about 6 or 7 months, and throughout it always seemed like the Florida Gators were the team that was going to flip him. And then yesterday, we start hearing all this smoke about Texas, and you've been following this. Dalton Evans did not sign on Wednesday. As we tape this on Thursday morning, the day after signing day, he still has not signed, but you spoke to him last night. What did he say?
Yeah, he's unsure. And look, he was unsure. I reported last week he'd probably hold off until February. Well, he's made it one day. We'll see. There's 2 more, right, until 11:59 p.m. Friday. But he's just uncertain. He said he's not sure what he's going to do. He made an official visit to A&M last week, and that was not enough to get him to shut down the recruitment. He talked to Steve Sarkisian, FaceTime with Sark. And Bo Davis, he had an in-home with Blake Gideon last week at that same Chipotle in Longview, as it turns out. So Texas has been working on him behind the scenes. I think once they learned, okay, he may opt for the February sign-in period. Texas has sent him a letter of intent. So he has a letter of intent from Texas and Texas A&M. So if he wants to sign with one of those programs here in the next 24, 48 hours, that certainly wouldn't surprise me. But as of last night, he's unsure what he wants to do. It could go to February. He could decide last minute here and sign with one of those 2 schools.
You think it's a 2-team race right now?
Yeah, if it goes into January, I think Oklahoma would be involved if they want to be involved, and possibly USC. That's what he had told me last week on Wednesday. But I really think this is going to boil more down to A&M and Texas at the end.
All right, Texas sneaking in this recruitment at the last minute. Now, cornerback Aaron Butler, he decommitted quietly from Colorado about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Are you hearing that he could be a potential target for Texas down the stretch in January?
Yeah, if he doesn't sign here in the next 48 hours, if he takes this to February, it's possible. Chris Jackson, Texas is looking at him as a wide receiver. Chris Jackson, the receivers coach, made an in-home visit with him in Calabasas a couple of weeks ago, and that was pretty much quiet. That escaped on the West Coast there. Then word kind of got out that, okay, Texas is showing some interest in Aaron Butler, who's a very talented playmaker. He's deciding right now, again, similar spot with Dalton Evans. He made an official visit to Arizona last weekend. Washington's very much in this. Washington and Arizona are kind of where the decision's going to come from if he signs early, unless he makes a leap of faith and signs with Texas, which that would be interesting and unexpected. But if it goes to February, I can definitely see Texas, Steve Sarkisian going out there to see him in January, making an in-home visit and getting Butler on campus for an official visit. So again, similar to Dalton Evans, we'll see where this goes in the next 48 hours. If he doesn't sign early, I do expect Texas to be in this one.
All right, the last name on our list is defensive lineman Alex Foster, committed to Baylor, 3-star prospect. Now, I think you can see a theme here that Texas has a few spots left and they would like to use it on D linemen, which is ironic considering we talked about Texas's class on the signing day show, and the thing that we highlighted is how well they've recruited the trenches, and it's telling that they want more. So how much of a priority is Alex Foster? What do they like about him?
Yeah, I think Dom McKinley, Alex Foster, Dalton Evans, I think there's a chance they would take 2 of those guys. One for sure, not out of the question they would take 2. But Alex Foster, they love the upside. He had made an official visit with his mom last week, and he was also on campus unofficially for the Texas Tech game a few weeks ago. 6'4.5", 270, 10.5-inch hands, 82-inch wingspan. He has got that upside frame and athleticism combination that Texas really likes from a developmental standpoint. And he says he's taking this to February, right? All these guys say that. They have 48 hours to change their mind, but he's been pretty adamant that he's going to February now. And that would puts Texas in a pretty good position there to battle Arkansas. I think Kentucky's involved, but really remains committed to Baylor. But this is one I think Texas can win if they make a push in January. The question is, will they take 1 or 2 defensive linemen? I think they'll get one of these guys, but could they get 2? We'll find out.
Man, so we'll see. Do you think Texas could potentially finish with a top 3 class when it's all said and done?
Oh, no question about it. I mean, look, if Dominic McKinley went their way, that's a 5-star ranked 27 in the country. So they would be there. I mean, they would be there. Even if they don't get McKinley, Dalton Evans is ranked top 100 in the country, and then Aaron Butler's ranked top 150 in the country. So they have the ability to add 2 more impactful guys, not only in their class, but in the class rankings that could vault them to the number 3 spot, which is where they finished last year, by the way.
Man, unbelievable. Jerry, the path was not straight. It was winding. It took some turns. It was up and down. But we followed your path, and it led us to a top 5 class for Texas.
Yeah, I want to give credit to Sark now. 12-1 gets you to that path pretty quickly, okay? 12-1 in the college football playoff gets you to a top 5 class if you're patient in recruiting.
And even you, when we started playing that game, path to the top 5 class, like even you at some points were just like, this is what it would be. Hey, do they get there? I don't know.
Yeah. The Phil Sami flip, Florida's season really impacted Texas' path there. It was Wardell Mack flip and then Phil Sami. Mm-hmm. That really opened the door for Texas to get to the top 5.
And that makes the Gerry Hamilton flip way more palpable if you're a Texas fan. It just makes that whole secondary class much more solidified. If they can go out and get a guy like Aaron Butler, hey, that kind of replaces what you lost in Hampton. But even if you don't, it's a stellar class, top to bottom, trenches, skill players. Texas has it all. Heading to the SEC. Gerry Hamilton, thank you for dropping by the Inside Scoop.
You got it, man.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.